Primary sources are original first-hand accounts, usually written by someone who was there when an event occurred. When you are assigned a paper, your professor may specify that you include primary sources or original research articles. Specific disciplines define primary sources in slightly different ways. Primary sources in the humanities are records usually created by individuals who directly experience and provide first-hand testimony or evidence of an event, action, topic, or time period. Examples include autobiographies, diaries, manuscripts, poems, oral histories, treaties between the U.S. and an Indian tribe, congressional hearings, Senate reports, and other government documents, interviews, photographs, works of art, musical compositions, and videos of live performances. Primary sources in the social and natural sciences, also referred to as primary research, report the researcher's results, findings, and data from their own original research ideas, experiments, or scientific discoveries. Examples include published research findings, case studies, conference papers, patents, lab notebooks, surveys, and census data. Secondary sources interpret, analyze, critique, or comment on information found in primary sources and put them into context. They are usually written by individuals who did not experience the events firsthand. A key component of many secondary sources is the presence of a thesis statement or argument made by the author. An author will often make their thesis clear in the introductory material of a secondary source, with phrases like, "I will argue, demonstrate, or show." These clues will help you identify a secondary source. Examples include literature reviews, biographies, reviews or analyses of previously published research, a book that analyzes the attack on the Alamo, a scholarly journal article critiquing a work of art. Tertiary sources compile, distill, and summarize factual information obtained from other, usually secondary sources. They often provide a broad overview of a topic. A tertiary source does not contain a thesis or argument. The absence of a thesis or argument is a key difference between a tertiary source and a secondary source. Examples include almanacs, dictionaries, encyclopedias, handbooks, directories, manuals, and textbooks. Some types of sources may be primary in one instance and secondary in another. For example, current newspaper articles are usually considered secondary sources. News reporters are generally not eyewitnesses to the events they describe. But if you are studying the Civil War, a newspaper article from the 1860s reporting events or attitudes on the war could be considered a primary source. In this case, the time period defines the context. Don't be fooled by dates, though. Imagine that the long-lost diaries of John F. Kennedy, written by him in the 1950s, were just discovered. If the original diaries were published in book form this year, would that make them a primary or secondary source? Yes, primary. It is not the year of publication that matters. They were written by John F. Kennedy himself, so they are first-hand accounts. Now, can a secondary source, such as a book that analyzes the immigrant experience at Ellis Island, also include primary sources? Yes. A good secondary source is an excellent place to find primary sources in the body of the text, footnotes, endnotes, or bibliography. It might contain the 1901 passenger list of a ship carrying immigrants to Ellis Island and photographs of immigrants who arrived. The analysis of the immigrant experience would be a secondary source. The 1901 passenger list and the photographs of immigrants would be primary. What about a primary source, such as a diary published in book form? Can it also include secondary sources? Yes. There could be a translator's note or a brief introduction written by someone else. The diary would still be a primary source. The added material would be secondary. As you can see, there are some gray areas when determining whether or not you have a primary source. But remember, primary sources are generally first-hand accounts, whereas secondary sources analyze primary sources and put them in context. Tertiary sources, on the other hand, compile, distill, and summarize factual information.